Hey everybody, Tim Evanicki here with the College Audition, back again with another episode of the College Audition podcast, here with two special guests today, Matthew Caron, Managing Director and Assistant Professor, and Nick Wayne, Musical Director and Assistant Professor of Theater at Minnesota State University. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So we always get to know our guests before the programs right at the top. So Matthew, if we can start with you, give us a little bit about your background and career that led you up to your time as a college professor.
Sure. Yeah. I've spent most of my career in academic theater. I've spent my time bouncing around a couple of different colleges and universities here in the Upper Midwest in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I spent some time in Oklahoma teaching down there as well, and then ended up back here at Minnesota State in 2019. I hold my MFA degree from this institution, from Minnesota State. My MFA is in directing. I also have an MA in communication arts from University of Wisconsin Superior.
And Nick.
Yes, so I hold a Master of Music in Vocal Performance is my degree, and I started my vocal training at a place called the McPhail Center for the Arts. It's kind of a private private school in the Minneapolis area where I got into popular styles of singing and musical theater and things like that, and it really began my official training as a vocalist and things like that. I've taught at Gustavus Adolphus College. I've taught at Bethany Lutheran College here in Mankato, and I currently am the music director here at Minnesota State University in Mankato.
So before we dive into sort of dissecting the program, I usually put my guests on the spot at this point and ask for an elevator pitch on their program, and 60 seconds or less. I will let you two decide who gets to do this, though. So I'm not going to put you definitely on the spot. Who do we think is better? Say 1, 2, 3, not it. What do you want to do? Nick, our viewers can't see.
Nose
They can't
goes.
see it.
Nose
I'm
goes.
pointing it. Does that mean math?
Sure.
Matt, we're going to put you on the spot then, I guess. So 60
Sure.
seconds or less. Why Minnesota State University?
One of the great advantages that our program has over a number of other colleges and universities is the sheer number of productions that we do. This is one of our biggest draws, is the production opportunities, both for performers and for designer and technicians. We do 5 main stage shows, 4 studio shows, 2 dance concerts, 1 touring children's show, and we have a 2 to 4 season summer stock program as well. So you add all that together, it's between 12 and 16 productions that we do per year, depending on the year. And that means that students that come here have endless opportunities of being cast, of working on shows, of designing shows, of stage managing shows, etc. Boom. Is that 60
And
seconds or less?
if I can jump in, these are fully mounted productions. And does that make sense? It's
Yes.
lights, costumes, everything.
See, Matt, I thought you did just fine in under 60 seconds, but all right.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Tim.
to clarify, what degrees are we talking about that are offered by Minnesota State University in performance?
Yep. So we have a number of different performance degrees. We have the pretty typical BA, BS degree, Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science degree in theater arts. Then we also offer a more specialized degree, the BFA. We have a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts, in both acting and in musical theater. And then, of course, we have graduate level degrees too, MFA in performance, musical theater and acting, and directing, and then an MA as well.
Right. So do you two oversee just the musical theater department, or are you overseeing the BFA acting as well?
Well, Nick is technically speaking, he's the head of our performance area. So it is on his very firm shoulders that rests all the hopes and dreams of all students.
Say it like that.
It's actually quite a team effort that we have. So Nick is technically the head of our performance area, and so he's the one that that does a lot of the administrative stuff. But we as a team, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 performance faculty on staff, and 4 of which are specifically theater, 2 are dance, and then it's we 4 that make those decisions collectively about who makes it in the program and so on.
Right. So, for the purposes of today's program, are we talking musical theater and acting, or just
Correct.
going for musical
That's
theater?
correct.
Great.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Nick, let's start. I am a freshman BFA musical theater major on my way to Minnesota State University. What does my first year look like?
Busy. The very first day of class, you'll arrive a week early. You'll move in, right? Do all that sort of thing, get settled, and on the very first day of class, we will hold auditions for 3 shows. Right, Matt? Is it 3 or 2? It's 3. It's 3. It's the first studio show, which will open in 3 weeks from the first day of class. The main stage musical, which will open about a week after that. And then the next production after that, typically another play. So your very first day of class, you are auditioning and being looked at for 3 different productions that you will probably be cast in, because one of our strengths is the many shows and the tons of stage time that you can have here at MSU. So you hit the ground running.
Beautiful. And what does my schedule look like that year as far as required courses?
Yeah, sure. So everyone has the same core, kind of freshman classes they take right away: intro to theater, fundamentals of acting, history. There's those basic core classes that you will have just about everywhere. Oh, Julie's coming in. I see Julie's coming in. Those sorts of cores, and then as you move along, hey Julie, sorry, we got an interruption. Julie got Chrome, and we're in. So also, Tim, if we could sidestep too, Julie is the chair of the department and the head of the dance area, so she can talk about all the dance degrees as well. So now that she's here, we need to make sure that we get more information from her on all of that.
I feel like this is a live show now. Hi, Julie.
Let's just go live.
Hi.
Is there a switch you flip
Hi.
somewhere? Just broadcast.
So we have a third special guest today, Julie Kerr-Berry. And I'm sorry, your exact title again? Chair of...
I'm the chair of the theater and dance program.
Theater and dance
And my
program. Just
area-
want to make sure I said that right.
Yes. Yep.
Beautiful. We were just talking about what the freshman year looks like of an incoming freshman BFA musical theater student, and Nick was just talking about what that course load looks like. So, Nick, had you completed your answer to that?
Where was I? Yeah, Matt, did I get everything?
Yeah, I think so. You'll have the general degree requirements, of course. So you'll be taking a number of classes in other programs to flesh out your generals, and then from the theater program, intro to theater and fundamentals of acting would be the first 2 in that first semester, and then second semester things like theater diversity and play analysis would come along in those semesters as well. In addition to that, to all of our degrees, whether it's BFA or BA, require activity credits, and that simply means that you're involved in a show, and you get experience for that you get credit for that practical experience. So if you're cast in a show, that counts. Or if you're a run crew or a light board op or running sound crew or something like that, that would all count as well.
How much overlap is there with your BFA actors and your BFA musical theater students in their first year?
Meaning how much they come in contact with each other, or the kinds of courses they take?
Curriculum. Are they in classes together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, they are mostly. There's we have a couple of courses, and they're mainly in the upper division because it's rare for a first year student to audition for the BFA program and get accepted into the BFA at that time. Typically, our BFAers will come along in their second or their third year, right? So they'll be here for a couple of years, then audition, and then get into the program and finish up. So that means that most of our BFA only classes are going to be the upper division classes. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that BA or BS students don't take those courses. It just means that the BFA students get first dibs. They get preference for the spaces that are available in those courses.
So that's something that's a little bit different than most of the schools that we've had on this podcast so far. So let's explore that a bit
dig
more.
into
Sure.
this.
Maybe this is Julie's opportunity to jump in. Julie, you still there with us?
I am.
Wonderful. So explain what that means then. As a student is starting their first year at Minnesota State University, they are not yet declared a BFA. Is that correct?
Well, that is the 1 degree program across programs that requires an audition. So some of them audition and are accepted their first year, while other students we suggest that they wait a year and then they audition. So
I see.
One thing about that, Tim, I want to jump in on this as well, is when we implemented the BFA at MSU, it happened after I got here. So I was part of that transition period. There was debate, should all students just automatically be admitted into the BFA, and then we put them on probation, kind of at the end of their sophomore year, and then decide, oh, you make the cut, you don't make the cut. Or should we do it, allow everyone to come in and then they audition while they're here? We thought the latter was better because it seemed less of a heartless thing to have to do to not kick people out, but to say, oh, you're not quite meeting it, so now you're reverting back to the generalist rather than the BFA, whether in musical theater, dance, or acting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
As to why we do it this way?
Yeah. So I know the question's going to come up then for the people who are listening to this, that there's obviously a concern of sorts then. What happens if I go to school and I'm there for a year and then don't get into the BFA program? What are my options at that time? Is there an option to re-audition at a later year?
Yep. Yeah, there sure is.
Go ahead.
You want to take it, Julie?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, we have there's 2 audition opportunities. So if a student does not get in with the first audition, then they have another opportunity to audition, which was what would usually happen with an incoming first year student, for example. They might be real enthusiastic about auditioning, but perhaps we feel that they need a little bit more experience or a little more time or a little more seasoning as a performer in order to be able to meet the high expectations of our BFA program. And so then we would tell them that, great audition. We think there's potential here. Let's wait a year. Let's talk. Let's get to know you. Let's see what you can do in performance and in classroom situations. And then, in consultation with the student's particular specific advisor, then we would make a decision as a performance area faculty to encourage that student to audition a second time. And very often when we get to that second time, that's when the student gets admitted, because we know that they're prepared, we know that they're ready, and then we can move forward from there.
And just
Does that make sense?
Add on
Yes.
to a little, and just to add a little bit onto that is this may sound a little paradoxical, but the bottom line is when students audition for the work, whatever it is, it depends on their audition. So sometimes we could be a non-BFA candidate might be auditioning and be accepted into work that a BFA may not. Is that correct, colleagues? Right?
Yes, absolutely, Julie. I was just thinking about that. The generalists here, we're talking in hierarchy terms right now, and we really don't operate that on a day-to-day basis. The generalists here have just as much opportunity for stage time to getting into many of the classes, not all, the dance classes, voice lessons, the training that they need, as they have just as many opportunities as the other students. In fact, there have been times where generalists get leading roles over BFAs because of the various variables that sometimes come into play when casting. So I feel it's an important thing to say.
Right. So there's no, this is a program that does not have an audition first year. Just to recap, you do not audition to get into the program in the beginning. You audition to advance to a BFA after you're already there.
Oh, well, I guess dance is different. They can audition the first year. And it's rare that they get in the first year. And sometimes they never get in. But they do have an opportunity when they first come in, and then they have another opportunity in the spring. And they have another opportunity just before school starts that next term. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Just to clarify further, the BA/BS degree does not require an audition. Anybody can be a BA or BS theater arts major. It's only the BFA that requires the audition.
So as we're talking about the performance opportunities that are... So sorry, Julie, go right ahead.
I just wanted to... I just wanted to say that... I know. I think what makes this program unique, and colleagues jump in if you've already not talked about this, is that when students come into the program, they don't have to wait a year. They hit the ground running in terms of taking dance classes, auditioning, taking acting classes, being in the shops, and sometimes that's not always the case. And I know of schools where they have to prove their worth, so to speak, before they can get into those classes. So that is not the case here. So there is some real equity in that in terms of experiences. We just don't dose them out to a certain group of students. So that's all.
So we've mentioned a couple times that students, whether they're BFA or BA, have many opportunities to get on the stage right from their very first semester. So let's now elaborate a bit on what those performance opportunities are. Can you tell me a little bit about your performance season year to year? Oh, sorry, this is my fault. I should be asking who, so we can volley back and forth. Matt, do you want to take this one?
Sure, I'd love to. We divide our performances, we categorize rather our performances in a couple of different categories. We have our main stage season, we have our dance season, and we have our studio season. And so the main stage season we have a 5-show season, and we typically bookend that. Well, we always bookend it. We start with a big musical, we end with a big musical. The other 3 shows in the middle, then one of those 3 shows is going to be a classic piece of some sort. So this year, for example, we're doing Richard III. It opens tonight. And then the other 2 shows are going to be, they could be just about anything. Usually one of them is going to be some sort of a popular piece of theater. So this year we're doing Christmas Carol, which opens in 2 weeks. And then we're doing Marisol as the other show. So that's our 5 main stage shows. In a studio then, studio shows are typically directed by our MFA directors. And these are shows that are probably a little less well known, more experimental in nature, and in a lot of ways provide our students, BFA and BA/BS alike, with all sorts of different kinds of performance opportunities that they might not get on the main stage. And that's really important as well. So this year, for example, we opened with In the Next Room by Sarah Rule, and we're currently in rehearsals for last summer at Bluefish Cove, which opens at the end of the month. And then next semester, it's At Home at the Zoo by Edward Albee and The Language Archive by Julia Chill. And then on top of that, we have our 2 main dance concerts, one at the end of the fall term and one at the end of the spring term. We have our traveling children's tour, annual traveling children's tour. And this is a really unique opportunity for first-year students because we only allow first-year students to audition and participate in the traveling children's tour. And so it's a great opportunity for them to get an experience on a touring production, but then also it's reserved for first-year students. So it's designed in order to give them some really great performance opportunities right out of the gate.
Nick, Nick, is it common for students to be able to to sort of cross over, and if a musical theater student be in a dance concert, be in a play, is that common?
Absolutely, it's common and encouraged. We will have dancers in plays and musicals. We will have musical theater specialists in dance concerts, actors in dance concerts. We really believe in that cross pollination is a strength of ours. We encourage it.
So Julie, are there
Yes.
minors available that within as well? If an MT or even an actor wanted to minor in dance, is that a possibility?
It's actually pretty common that we have that because they really do support one another. But I wanted just
Great.
to back up on the performance. There's another dimension for dance, and Matt is absolutely right. But we also have a student dance showcase concert for dancers, and what is so important about that is that they learn how to produce a dance concert, under the guidance of our director of dance. There's also performance opportunities that, and the same thing for KCACTF is with ACDA, American College Dance Association, where students are traveling and performing in regional conferences. And my colleague has brought several works to the Kennedy Center where students have performed. So that's really an important opportunity to get them off campus to have other performance experiences. So I just wanted to insert that.
Of course. So we just talked about minoring within the performing arts there.
Yep.
But Nick, let's go back to you for a second. Is there the opportunity, obviously, for the BA and BS students to minor outside of the performing arts? But once you're a BFA student, is your schedule open enough to minor or possibly double major?
No, that's the blunt answer, because it's a pretty packed itinerary of classes and things you have to do. So once you become a BFA, has it been done? Yes, but very rarely, and it usually is because of a very complex set of scenarios. For example, someone may have transferred in here and they already had a bunch of their gen eds out of the way and a bunch of other things, and it miraculously allowed them to open up some extra time. It's very rare. Once you become a BFA, you're probably not minoring anything.
Mm-hmm. And is that
Unless
you want to
because...
stay.
Sure. Yeah. Matt, go. Yeah. Unless you want to stay longer. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you want to stay longer. If you want to get done in 4 years, the minor is
Right.
probably not going to be an option. But you can stay longer if you want to, because we love to have you. And so,
And it has been done. It has been done. Our BFAs in dance have been double majors in exercise science and nutrition. And so they go to school in the summer. And actually the one I'm talking about got through in 4 years. So.
Wow. So if a student is auditioning either second or you said even third year sometime for that BFA program, does then, if they're auditioning the third year, is their schedule that much more hectic because now they're doing it in 2 instead of 3?
that's correct. And then oftentimes it means that if they get accepted in their third year, that they're going to stay another year. And so we have to make that clear to the student, so it's not a surprise all of a sudden that I've got to. And normally, and at least in my experience, when that has happened, the student wants to stay that extra year. They want to get that extra prep. They want to get that BFA, so they've been okay with it. But certainly if a student was very adamant about getting out in 4 years, we might have to sit down. We would first of all sit down with them to see if they can complete the BFA requirements in the 2 years that they're there, that they're here. And if not, then the student might have to make a pretty serious decision about how they want to proceed forward. Now, the other thing is that oftentimes if a student is very interested in the BFA, or if we identify someone that we might think would be a good BFAer, we'll encourage them to sort of shadow the BFA program as they're going through their BA/BS. So while they might have their degree plan on one hand, then they'll have the other sheet that says the BFA requirements, and then just sort of taking the courses that they can along shadowing the BFA program, and then if they get in, then some of that work is done for them already. Not all of it, because there are some unique requirements for the BFA program that aren't in the BA/BS. But
Julie, let's talk a little bit more about the dance program. Oftentimes, especially my musical theater students, always want to know, once they're there, are they able to level up or level out of certain dance classes, and how rigorous are those dance classes, being that you have your own dance program?
They do. They can advance in level, and they are rigorous. Sometimes and I think this is still a work in progress, is freeing up the BFA in the musical theater schedule enough that they could take more dance classes. So that proves a bit of a challenge. But they are rigorous. Every level of dance that we offer has 3 levels. And it's sometimes they will stay like in a level 2 for a year before they would advance. So so they do have that opportunity. Mm-hmm.
Great. Let's talk. It's not often I have 3 guests here, but let's talk about who else is on the team and some other key players that students will be encountering during their time there. Julie, as chair, I'm going to let you take that one as well.
There's several faculty members in dance and theater, and Nick and Matt, I don't know if you talked about this, about the guest artist roster that we have every year because of the Andreas family. Did that get talked about?
No, we haven't spoken about that.
No one's...
Yeah, let's dive into that.
Well, that is a gift that we got from the Andreas family, and what that affords students is the opportunity to work with a variety of guest artists from all disciplines in theater and dance every year. So that augments our faculty with different kinds of expertise, different experiences, different perspectives. So I just wanted to say that before. But there's 10 full-time theater and dance faculty members. We have adjuncts, 1 in ballet, 1 in playwriting, and as I said, we've got those Andreas guest artists. And sometimes they're coming as far as New York, sometimes they're local. What's unique about where we live, I know that's one of the questions, that we're so close to the Twin Cities, so we could really tap into the dance and theater communities there. So sometimes we don't have to go, across country to bring someone in. And we have, the faculty members have very different expertise on set design, costume design. My colleague Dan Stark directs a dance program. He and I are both come out of a contemporary modern base, and then Matt and Nick are performance and musical theater. Of course, is with Nick, and Matt with directing, and then Heather Hamilton is. She is performance and has a real expertise in Shakespeare. I saw her show last night. It was pretty amazing. And then Vlad Rovinsky comes to us by way of St. Petersburg, Russia, and brings a whole different perspective in terms of physical theater, which is really wonderful. And as another way, as Nick said, to cross-pollinate the two programs. And I can honestly say, Tim, that maybe you said this already, but colleagues, but the uniqueness, I'm going to say this again, of this program, our department, is how much these students get to interact and really truly be cross-disciplinary, which I think mirrors the industry in terms of being able to sing and dance and act, know how to run a light board. There's a real comprehensive experience that students engage in. That was very long-winded. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
That was a beautiful answer, though.
Well, thank you.
You just mentioned that you are very near the Twin Cities. So I want to talk a little bit about the campus itself and campus life. Students always, eventually actually leave the campus for things. So Matthew, do you want to tell us a little bit about what student life is like around that area, what things there are to do?
Sure. I mean, it's been a long time since I was a student, but I'll try to keep it interesting.
I'm
sure
you have some social life.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So the campus, I think, I hope I'm getting the number right, but I think we're home to 30,000 students. I think. That might be too many. I can't remember offhand.
Well,
but it's a
there's six. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's 16,000 undergrad, and
Gotcha.
we have a campus location in the southwestern suburbs, the Edina campus, and then there's probably about 4,000 or 5,000 graduate students. So.
Okay, so maybe more around like 20,000 students, 25,000 students. Good, yeah, and we have, there are several different dorms on campus that many of our students live on. Some of them, maybe all of them have been recently renovated and are pretty nice. And then a number of our students live off campus as well, and there's plenty of housing really close to campus if you don't want to live in the dorms. In fact, our performing arts building, it's just about a block and a half walk to the first bank of apartment houses that a number of our students live in. In terms of social life in Mankato, it's kind of it's a town of 60,000 people, and in the downtown area, there's plenty of nightlife too for people that are interested in restaurants and things like that. There are a number of community theaters in our small community as well. We have 1, 2, 3 different community theaters that I'm thinking off the top of my head. And a number of our students, might do some side work with some of those organizations as well. Merely Players, Mankato Playhouse, third one's escaping me. And then really in terms of other theater, like Julie said, we're only about an hour and a half away from Minneapolis and St. Paul, where there is just a really, a huge theater scene up there with the Guthrie Theater, an important regional theater up there, and all sorts of smaller theaters that are just pepper the landscape in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And so there's it's a real short drive, relatively speaking, to get up there and see some good work too.
So Nick, let's say now I'm wrapping up my 4 years, or maybe 5 years at Minnesota State University. What types of tools do you arm your students with, or how do you sort of ease the transition from a full-time student to an actual real-life working professional?
I think our students leave here very well prepared to go to a lot of auditions, because we have 3 or 4 rounds of auditions every single school year. They are constantly auditioning for us, so they are quite comfortable and I think quite good at auditioning. If you go up to Minneapolis any time of the year and go to any of the theaters that Matt had mentioned when he said it was peppered with professional theaters, you will find MSU alums working at all of them, maybe simultaneously. So our students leave here and they tend to get work, because I think it's because of all the opportunities they have here to be on stage, but also that most valuable skill that they build when they audition constantly. They walk into a room very confidently and they do well.
So Julie, share with us some where are some places that your students have gone on to work and perform after leaving your program?
We have a student who's a graduate of the BFA who is dancing in a regional company in Missouri, and many of our students, whether they're BFA or they're BSs, because we have a private studio dance studio track, are teaching in the community, but also in their home studios and in other areas of the state. So.
Awesome. So let's chat a little bit more as we're wrapping up. Normally we would transition at this point into the audition phase of it, but let's talk now instead, because students aren't auditioning for their first year. Can someone tell us about the application process? Julie, if you want to take this one again as chair, what does the application process look like?
You mean for just all the degrees, or focusing in on the BFA?
Focusing, well, for all of the degrees. So coming in as a first-year student, I,
Okay.
If I have a student
So
that's interested in going to Minnesota State University, what do I tell them to do next?
Well, first they have to be accepted by the university in order to and actually enroll in classes, but oftentimes they're visiting us before they've been accepted. And so they could be accepted, for example, into the BFA without being accepted in the university. So we have to make sure that we coordinate with them. I do a lot of summer advising, and which is a really oftentimes that's where a lot of students will matriculate matriculate in the fall, but come to us during the summer. So there's a lot of summer advising that goes on, and that's a very intricate process, as my two colleagues know, because sometimes students are transferring in either classes they've taken in high school or they've done some of their gen ed works, and there's some substitution and waivers that have to go on if they're transferring from other theater or dance programs, which is a whole other layer. But the freshmen they are accepted by the university. There's a summer orientation they go through, and then they come to the department for a discipline specific advising session. So by the time the fall semester unfolds, they know what their classes are pretty much. So.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, I always ask my guests, the last question I always ask, and I'm going to ask each of you this: what's something you're looking forward to this semester? We'll start with you, Matt.
Well, I'm looking forward to the opening of the show I'm working on right now, which is A Christmas Carol. We've got a delightful adaptation of that classic, and we're really excited to bring it to the community. The cast is quite incredible. The scene design is going to be kind of spectacular, and so we're really looking forward to that one.
Okay, and Nick?
I always look forward to at the end of each semester we have it's a sort of, you could think of it as a showcase, but it's not really. It's this moment where all the students that are in singing lessons kind of have an adjudicated performance at the end of every semester. And it's a great time for us as the directors to see all the current work that's being done in the private studio space. It's not an audition, but it kind of feels like one. So it's another chance for the students, again, to get in front of us and show us what they're doing in the private lesson studio, but it doesn't carry the stress and stakes of an audition for a role or something like that. It's a little bit more relaxed, and I thoroughly enjoy that. It's an hours long process, but I always enjoy it and look forward to it.
And Julie, what about you?
Great question. I don't know if you talked about notable faculty or alum, but I'm looking forward to the our winter concert, because we are doing a memorial dedication to the first pioneer of the dance program who came to us in the late 1960s, and her name was Florence Cobb, and she's the first black professor on campus. Among many other things that she brought, she was quite a trailblazer. The concert will end with a dance dedicated in her memory and done to a live band of performers on stage interacting with the dancers. And there are theater students in that dance piece as well. So I'm looking forward to that celebration.
Wow. And if students are looking to get more information, what's the best way to get in touch, Julie?
You can contact me. I think that's a good place to start. And then what I usually do will disseminate it accordingly to the respective faculty member. We also have a Director of Public Relations, Corey Eggeman, who does a lot of coordinating of tours and can answer other questions. So as well as my colleagues. So.
Wonderful. And last thing we'll say before we leave, Matt, what's the website? Do you know that?
Yep. Yeah, it's msutheater.com.
All right. Well, thank you, all three of you, for joining us today and sharing some information on your program. We hope that we've been able to pique some interest for you out there amongst our listeners, and we hope to see all of you back around here real soon.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.
For more information on the exciting training, workshops, and resources we have to offer at the College Audition, please visit us online at www.thecollegeaudition.com or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.